All right, fam, Jay Sinista, and we're back again, and guess what? We're dealing with the fire team one more time. And of course, we got that fire team teamed up with RC Bash Co. And not only do we now have front full protection collision kit installed, fam, also on the back, we've got, boom, we got the rear collision kit installed. Super simple, super easy. So if you want to see how we do that, I advise you to stick around until after we roll that intro footage.
Got the problem with the what?
Sinista Productions. Sinista Productions.
Yo, fam, thanks for coming back. Appreciate you sticking with the channel. Appreciate you rocking with Jay Sinista Productions. And again, the point of focus of today's video is the rear collision kit from our good friends over at RC Bash Co. Got to send a big shout out to Adam C over there at RC Bash Co. I appreciate you sending us the rear bash kits. We can get this installed on the fire team and show all of you how to do it. And again, talk more about the benefits of having this. In addition, at the end of the video, I'm going to show you another little tip that I had to figure out on my own, because previously, if you saw one of my other videos, I am also running the Polo Creations rear LED lights. And in order to make that work with this bash kit, collision kit installed, those LED lights had to be relocated from the chassis to the body in order to make it work. Real simple. I'll show you how I did that. But more importantly, let's head over to the bench so we can show you just how simple and easy this install is. And then also we're going to talk about that 2K giveaway, which has unfortunately come to a close. To the bench. All right, fam. So before we go into the assembly of the rear collision kit from RC Bash Co., we're going to go ahead and do the shock or the piston pre-assembly, so you can get all that together. When you receive your shock or the piston, it is going to come already partially assembled, just like this. All right, and the red anodized finish with the RCB Co. branding on it. So all you want to do with this is, again, if you've seen my previous video, I've went over this for the front collision kit, but once again, we're going to do the pre on this shock. You want to take off the shock rod end. You want to take one of the black O-rings and place that over the shock rod. Push that all the way down so you have the O-ring sitting here. Take the spring, place that over the shock rod, and again, remember, there is a second spring inside of the shock, so it's a dual spring system, one internal, one external on the rod. You want to compress the spring just enough so you can take the second black O-ring, place it over the rod, and you'll be able to get it so far. You can get it further if you want. And then you want to take the rod end and screw that onto the shock, push your O-ring down a little more, and then you have a fully assembled shock or piston, if you want to call it that, for the rear collision kit. You'll do this twice, and once you have that finished, you can go ahead and take this a step further and pre-assemble a little bit more. I'm going to go ahead and do that now. To do that, you're going to also need, instead of just the shock, you're going to need these red anodized pieces right here, which will affix to the shock tower and the rear bumper of the fire team. So you'll have two of those, one on each end of the shock. And you'll also use two of these 13mm black button head screws. In addition to that, you're going to use 4 of the black O-rings. So to do this installation, this pre-installation, very simple. You want to take one of your 13mm button head screws, take one of the black O-rings, slip it over the screw, like so. And then either end, doesn't make a difference which end you do now. You want to place that through the shock end and then also affix a second black O-ring. So you'll look sort of like this. All right, real easy. And then you want to take one of these fasteners and screw that onto the 13mm button head screw, like so. Hand tighten. You can tighten later once everything's done. Don't want to over compress. And then you'll have one end that looks just like this. Repeat this end for this end of the rod, and you'll be ready to move to the next step, which we're going to do now. Bring over the fire team and start the assembly process. So let's get that popping. We've already removed the top and the lower 20 fasteners from the fire team, and we're going to replace those with the hardware that came with the collision kit, which consists of 4 red spacers and 2 25mm hex head fasteners. The 2 fasteners are going to go one here and one here. So you're going to take your 25mm fastener, which is this baby right here. Sorry about the focus. And we're going to take one of these red spacers. Let me get that in there so you can see it right there, this red spacer. On the outside of the top, and I'll lay a picture over so you can see it, there's a cavity that's going to be open where you're going to insert the 25mm hex head screw. You want to first take one of the red spacers and place it right inside, just like that. In the bottom cavity where you put the 25mm fastener, you will not place a red spacer on the outside. Internally, yes. Externally, no. But we'll start at the top. So we already have one of the red spacers installed. You want to take 2 more of the red spacers. You want to do these one at a time. 2 more red spacers will be placed on the inside of the bumper assembly. So first you want to take your 25mm hex, run it through just enough. And actually you don't have to do it this way because there is a small cavity in here. Take one of the red spacers, place it in the cavity. Oops, just dropped one, it's going to happen. So we'll get that inside of the cavity, run our 25mm through a little more, and it's going to look sort of like this right now. Let me zoom in. So as you can see, you have 25mm hex head, 1 red spacer, the 2nd red spacer, and the 25mm hex. You want to take the 3rd red spacer, get it onto your 25mm hex, and finish pushing your fastener through partially. And this is a 2.5mm head, so I'm just going to start the fastener just so everything stays in place up top, just enough. I believe I've got that worked in a bit. Yep. So everything is good. So right now, before we've tightened everything down, this is exactly how it should look. So to rehash again, we have the 25mm fastener, the hex head fastener, 1 red spacer on the outside, which goes into this outer cavity, and 2 more red spacers on the inside, and then you finish up pushing the fastener and screwing it all the way through. We're going to do a similar process on the bottom. I'll change the angle up just a little bit more so you can see it, but it's just like what we did up top, with the exception is you will not put a red spacer on the outside of the bottom. That spacer goes internally right here, but let me get in a little bit closer. Before we do move on to the bottom, because this is where we're going to actually begin the first process of installing the actual shock or the piston to the fire team, you may want to do this. You do not have to. I chose to because it made it a little simpler for me, but you want to remove the top of the shock from the shock tower. Real simple. Just take this is a 5.5mm socket, unscrew this lock nut here, and that should be it. Yep, pop that off and remove the shock from the tower. And you may want to brace or prop your rear end up with maybe one of your old tires or anything else to give yourself a little clearance down here. I'm just going to use the stock tires from the fire team. And now let me get that out of the way so you can see a little bit better. There we go. Now remove the shock from the shock tower. Now we'll work our way to the bottom of the bumper and get this piece installed with the shock. So let's get that done. All right, fam. So again, you can do this in any order you want. I'm just going to do it the way that I'm most comfortable doing. I'm going to take the 25mm hex head fastener, slide that through the rear of the bottom for the bumper assembly, just so I get it started. Then I'm going to take the remaining red spacer, place that in that internal cavity for the bumper. Get that in there just like so. All right, run your fastener just a little bit more through. Then you want to take your shock assembly, which we've already pre-started with both of the arms on the end. You want to take the arm that is on the RC Bashco branded end, not the spring and rod end, but you want to take this end. You want to place that in this space right here after the red anodized spacer. Then you want to run your hex all the way through, get everything lined up. We've got it pretty much started, and I'm going to hand tighten just a little bit. And that's how it's going to look. Remember, when you do this, you want the shock rod end not to be down here, but behind the bumper. See how I just disappeared? You want it, let me show you again. You don't want to have it like this. Let me move my angle. There we go. You do not want to have it down here. You want to take your bumper, and that's the whole point of using the spacers in this system. Pull your bumper out a little bit. Pop that in, and you want it to look similar to this. Let me move my angle. And there it is. Hopefully this will focus on that point. If not, I'll have to change up a little bit. There we go. So you want it to look similar to this right here. And this is the reason why you don't want to tighten anything down yet on this portion. Once you get it like this, you can start tightening all your fasteners down. I'll do that now. We'll get back and we'll install the final portion for this, and we'll be done. Okay, this is how everything should look so far. So you've got your shock mounted to your rear bumper back here, running up past the rear shock tower. And when we remove that factory shock absorber shown here, when we remove that, we left a few open mounting positions that you're going to use to attach the shock to the shock tower, and this is where that hole is. I'm using an EXP shock tower. You may still have the stock one. Either way it goes, you're going to have an open mounting position that you're going to utilize to install the shock to the shock tower. And to do that, you want to use the remaining piece of hardware from the kit, and that is this set, this 25mm hex head and nylon lock nut. You're going to use that to install it. Now you can install this either way you want to. You can install it in this fashion where the lock nut is on the rear of the shock tower, or you can install it where the lock nut, let me get that better, where the lock nut is on the front facing forward on the shock tower. I have all my locking nuts on the rear of my shock tower by default when I put everything together, so that's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to go ahead and install that. Really simple. Just thread that through, and let me get a little bit closer so you can see that. I'm sure you can, but it doesn't hurt to be a little bit closer. And get my focus point. So we're going to thread that through the shock mounting arm, through the shock tower. Let me get my finger out of the way so I can show you that better. So again, we're going to put the fastener through the shock mounting arm, and it's going to go through that open hole in the shock tower. Push that through to the other side, and you can see it now poking out right here. And then you take the remaining nylon lock nut and affix it to the rear end to tighten everything up and secure everything down. I'm gonna go ahead and do that now and come right back, and we'll be almost done with this. Super simple, super quick, super easy install. All right, fam, and this is our completed install. As you can see, we've got our shock mounted to the rear of the bumper, and we've also got the shock mounted to the rear shock tower. I keep calling this a shock. It's actually a piston. Same difference, where we have the piston mounted up to the rear of the shock tower. And you can see where our fastening hardware is going through the piston mounting arm, through the shock tower, and then finishing up at the rear. That's it, fam. If you've done one side already, you're complete. If not, you just mimic and mirror this to the other side, and you'll be finished. And once you're all done, button everything up, securely tighten everything down, reaffix your rear shock to the shock tower, and that's a wrap. All right, fam, there we have it. We got the RC Bash Collision Kit for the Fireteam, front and rear. Just installed the rear from our friends over at RC Bash Co. Super simple install. All the hardware you need to install it is provided. Remove a few screws, bam, you're done. all installed. Just remember, in order to make this installation work, you have to remove this factory absorption piece from the rear bumper. It'll allow this cavity to be opened up in the back, which will in turn allow the pistons to be installed and everything to work. And again, you've got some extra shock absorption front and rear now on your Fireteam. Now, you'll also notice that previously I was running the Polo Creations rear light kit, which affixes to this absorber right here, this stock absorber. It fixes and hangs off of either side of it. Well, with the shock absorber, with the absorber removed, with this piece removed and the shocks installed, that wasn't going to happen. So I had to figure out a way to relocate those actual lights. And it actually worked out, because now I have all my lights on the body versus the chassis. And you'll notice on the body, I don't know if Arrma was thinking ahead to maybe future-proof this or have lighting added in the near future, but on the rear of the vehicle, there are two open areas, probably for affixing something else to it, not sure what, but with a little reaming of that and another hole on the side of the body. Ream those out a little bit. You can put your lights in, add a little bit of hot glue or whatever adhesive you want to secure the lights to the chassis, to the body. And then I also used some rubber grommets that I had laying around so that I didn't have any wiring rubbing up against sharp plastic. Everything looks nice, neat, and clean, and I'm good to go. So the Fireteam right now, she's ready for her actual first true shakedown run, but I did run one time earlier in the week or last week, and I busted out the driver's side bearing, got a new bearing installed, everything's back, hardly any wobble in that rear and that wheel by itself. We're good to go. So before we close this out, let me remind you, fam, we're doing the 2K giveaway. We're closing that baby out as of today. So if your comment is not in, you're not eligible. I'm going to run through everybody that made the specific comment on that video, and I'm going to put those names together in a list. I'll do another video soon showing everybody that's eligible. And then after that video is posted, we'll move on to the next step, and that's winner selection. Probably do a live, not sure when, but it will be this month, and we're going to be giving away all those items. I did promise a special surprise, a bigger, larger item to be given away in conjunction with, but I've decided to postpone that and leave that for my holiday giveaway, which I'm going to make annually. Every year we're going to be doing a holiday giveaway to the JSP Posse, so stay tuned for that. And again, stay tuned to see if you've won. But fam, that's it with the Fireteam. We've got the full front and rear, the full kit, all installed. The RC Bashco collision kit for the Fireteam. If you do not know anything about RC Bashco, I'll leave links below. Go check out what he has to offer. He has this to offer for many other RCs, and a little bird told me these come in red right now. All your pistons come in red, but there are going to be additional colors added to the lineup soon. So you'll be able to customize and specialize and make your rig your own with more color choices. Fam, thanks a lot. I appreciate you. As always, do you, be you, and above all, stay true. I am Jay of J Sinista Productions, exiting stage left.
J Sinista Productions. J Sinista Productions.